Hello and welcome back to another episode summary of our deeper sessions that we've been going through. And the last session we had just now was, if God is a God of love, then why is there suffering? Now this is such a big question, one that Christians quite often hide away at and don't like to confront, but we're going to do it here and now. There have been so many books, so many seminars, so many conferences, so many lectures on this topic, and here I am about to give a 1-minute summary on why they're suffering. Seriously, how am I going to do that? One thing for certain though is that suffering is very real. Just take a look at the world around you, if not in your own life or in perhaps your family. We can see that suffering is all around us. How do we deal with that as Christians? Well, we looked at different books in the Bible like James and 1 Corinthians. And through these scriptures we can see how God sent his son Jesus to die, to be the suffering servant for us to take on all our sin and shame. When he died on the cross and rose again, he suffered. So he understands what it means to suffer. And through these verses in the Bible we looked at how actually when we suffer, God pours out his compassion on us so that we can be able to be compassionate and empathetic on those who suffer around us too, and show and reveal the love of Christ to them. You guys gave us some great examples of suffering that we can experience personally or that we see in the world today, and we looked at why these things might happen. We looked at the fact that this world is broken, it's cursed, just like a broken mobile phone that actually doesn't function properly. You know, when you've got a cracked screen, you just can't press that send button. Send, it won't send, annoying, right? We have free will, so anything we decide to do, it has a consequence, whether it be good or bad, whether we choose to take the recycling out, what we choose to wear, the clothes we buy, whether you choose to brush your teeth or whether you choose to revise, whether we go to war. So some consequences are much bigger than others. We then wanted to step out from the world for a moment and look at the bigger picture, just as God sees it. Okay, so sometimes we don't understand why suffering happens, and this is a very valid point. But looking at it from God's perspective actually makes things sometimes a bit clearer. We don't always see what lies ahead. We looked at some great stories of how there have been like kind of children who have had to look after their parents in third world countries, and then kind of they end up getting injured, and then as a result of that they can't look after their families anymore. And you think, why? Where is the justice in that, God? What were you thinking? Okay, so we're raising our fist to heaven like David does in the book of Psalms, like in his frustrations. But then we see like the following week, this rebel army, this guerrilla army come by, pick up boys from around the villages, trying to recruit them into their army. They look at this one boy who's injured, he's broken his leg, and they think, well, we won't take him. Now, in some kind of bizarre twist, God has saved him with his grace. Through his leg injury, he is able to kind of continue serving his family and looking after his family. Amazing. One thing that is so important when we think about this question of suffering is, if you're ever faced with this question as a Christian, it's really important to come at it from the angle of the person who is asking that question. Why are they asking that question? Perhaps the best answer to give them is not always, God causes suffering because this and the choices you make in your life, because actually the person who's asking the question could be suffering themselves. So I would suggest that as Christians, it's not always best to come up with an answer that's like very straightforward, but think about the person who's asking that question. How can you show them the love and compassion that Jesus shows us in our place of suffering? And finally, as Christians, we are kind of promised suffering, unfortunately. Like in the Bible it says that we will experience persecution for our faith. You just look at other countries around the world where Christians in the Middle East in particular are persecuted for their faith, put to death because of their faith. Guys, we've got it easy. This road we're on, this journey, it's not easy as a Christian, but God promises us that he will be with us throughout that time. In fact, he says it 365 times throughout the Bible that God is going to be with us always. Okay, so hold on to that hope. We have that hope. We have that hope in Jesus. Okay, so whenever we're going through suffering, cry out to him, call out to him, even if it's shaking your fists at heaven, even if it's calling out his name in praise. Hold on to Jesus, because actually, is suffering that much easier without God in your life? Think about it.